episode of Surviving the Survivor, we bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Forgot to bring myself up. I got so excited. We've got news with the Menendez brothers. Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime on trending criminal cases. This one's been trending since 1989. Literally, it has been making headlines since all the way back then. Erik and Lyle Menendez, they have been in prison. They were in jail prior to that, but they've been in prison since 1996, serving life without parole for the brutal 1989 murder of their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez. And just a few moments ago, the judge says that he is going to go ahead with this resentencing hearing.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but today is a good day. Justice won over politics. It's been a long time coming for anybody who was in the courtroom. It was very difficult to sit and listen to what we witnessed, and we're obviously very thankful to the judge, and I couldn't be prouder of representing this family. They've waited a long time to get some justice, and today was actually probably the biggest day since they've been in custody. I'm going to let them talk. I'm going to just say a couple of things. We heard and saw a lot of performative art, performative theatrics from the DA's office. The fact remains, and by the way, he's here. I had him under subpoena. Brock Lunsford, who was hardly, if you knew Brock like I knew Brock, the idea that he's some kind of a toady is laughable. And you should ask him some questions. I subpoenaed him here today, but I did not put him on the stand. He, I thought, did the right thing, the brave thing. I, in the courtroom, apologized to the family. I have seen something that I've never seen before, where a DA's office who basically hired for a head of victim services, somebody who was absolutely at odds with everybody behind here, and then gave them no support whatsoever, and then traumatized them again by throwing what I only consider to be an abhorrent picture up on the screen without warning, by the way, that I would have been chastised for if I did it as a defense lawyer. I just think all in all, it was an important day, a great day, and I'm thankful to everybody behind me for entrusting me. I'm thankful to Cliff Gardner, who ran away. Where are you? Come over here, Cliff.
I didn't get away yet.
Come here.
I'm here.
I'm going to tell one small story about Cliff, and then I'll let him talk, and I'll duck out. About 2 years ago, when we were talking, and by the way, we still have an unblemished record. If we work together, we have an unblemished record. And we were talking about the writ of habeas corpus, and that was almost a little over 26 months ago.
Yeah.
And we said, rather than filing this as a pro per, having them represent themselves, why don't we just do it? Because we enjoy working with each other. And so we did it together. Now I joke.
Worst decision we ever made.
Ever made, yes, because Cliff will tell you he does nothing but post-conviction litigation. Is there any case you've had more post-conviction litigation on than this case?
Sadly, no.
Yeah, sadly, no. So hat tip to Cliff, who I think is the best appellate lawyer of his generation. Hat tip to the family, and they'll all talk. And thank you all for paying attention today.
All right, we are anticipating hearing from the Menendez family members. Yeah, let's listen into this.
Thank you guys for being here. Today's ruling affirms something that should never have been in question. The facts, fairness, and the law still matter. The court made clear that this process isn't about politics. It's about truth. It's about justice. And it's about giving people the chance to show who they are now, not just who they were in their worst moment. We're especially grateful to former DA George Gascon, Nancy, Brock, and the entire team who took the time to do a real, rigorous, and fair review of Erik and Lyle's case. Their conclusion wasn't based on sympathy or politics. It was based on evidence. They combed through decades of records. They looked at Erik and Lyle's rehabilitation, their education, their contributions to others inside prison, and they applied the law exactly as it was intended, without bias, without agenda, and with integrity. Erik and Lyle have taken full responsibility for what they did, and for decades now, they've continuously shown their insight through their actions, not just their words. They've apologized to us repeatedly over the years and have exemplified growth and healing. They've lived with accountability every day, all while knowing that if they'd have all of that, while never knowing they'd ever have a chance at release. They've supported fellow inmates through grief and terminal illness. Their work isn't performative. It's purposeful. It's real. We look forward to a full, fair presentation of who Erik and Lyle are today, not just a version frozen in time, in a time of pain and fear, but the whole truth. The growth, the humanity, and the men they've become. We're not naive. We know hope can be fragile, but we believe that the law is on our side. And for today, that's enough. Thank you for being here.
Could we get your name and spelling again?
Anna Maria Baralt.
And the spelling?
You want to spell my name? It's really long. All right, first name, Anamaria, Baralt, B-A-R-A-L-T, and I am the niece of Jose and Kitty Menendez.
Thank you for speaking with us. Did any of you gauge the reaction of Lyle and Erik or have a chance to speak with them closely?
No, we haven't spoken to them yet, and I don't think any of us gauged their reaction quite yet. So we're looking forward to that for sure.
What was the reaction from the family when those graphic crime scene images were displayed?
You know, yet again, we were re-traumatized by this district attorney's office. Again, third time in a couple of months. So that's hard. That's hard. We've had to live in the spotlight for the last 35 years. It doesn't get easier for us. And so to sit there again in the courtroom and have him do it again, that's hurtful.
Do you think this brings them...
the judge ruling that you get to have a hearing so you can present the evidence to say they should be resentenced? This is what they've done for the last 35 years?
We do. It was heartening to see that. I believe that the judge, I'm not a lawyer, so I'll let the lawyers do the lawyering, but it was nice to see the judge ruled fairly, thoughtfully, heard arguments. There was one glaring lie told by the DA's office today, and that's that his presentation was only 2.5 hours long. It was not. It was much longer than that. So for sure they got their point across, and the judge still ruled in our favor, so we're grateful.
If you get a chance to speak before the court on Thursday or Friday for you and other relatives, what is it that you will say to the judge to try and convince him that Erik and Lyle Menendez should be free?
We get to talk about who they are as people. We get to talk about their growth. We get to talk about their expressions of remorse and their rehabilitation. So we're all looking forward to that.
Is it growth in prison or normal activities?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like their growth in prison or is it?
Well, they've spent the last 35 years incarcerated, so certainly they've grown anyway, right? They're not kids anymore, they're adults, but they have gone way above and beyond any expectations.
If they were black, would they have been given the same right?
Yes, they would have.
I believe that they would have.
The DA,
After 35 years?
Yes.
Anna Maria, the DA has made it very clear over and over again that Erik and Lyle Menendez have not taken responsibility or accountability for their crimes.
That is patently false. They have, repeatedly. I don't know why he keeps repeating that. That's just not true. They have.
What do you say to those people who think that they may still be a danger to society if they are free?
I think that's absurd to those people. Absolutely absurd.
You guys still have next week to go through.
Yes.
Do you have any hesitation, or is there still any little bit of worry that it might not fully go in your guys' way next week at all?
Of course. There's no way for us to predict how next week is going to go. We have great faith in the system. We have great faith that justice is going to prevail. We have great faith that this judge is acting based on the law. So that gives us hope because they've certainly earned it.
And if you could say something right now to Erik and Lyle, what would you say to them?
We're so proud of you. We're so proud of you. We're going to fight for you forever. And I really hope this happens.
Maria, what do you want to say to the district attorney? Because I know that your family has felt the DA hasn't listened to the family, hasn't paid attention to what Erik and Lyle have done for the last 35 years, and listened to your argument. What do you say to the DA?
You can start today, is what I would say to the DA. It's not too late. You can start listening to us now.
Anna Marie, will we get to hear from Erik and Lyle next week?
I believe that they're going to prepare statements. I don't know that they will be testifying. That's a lawyer question, so I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking because, the prosecution is basically saying their whole issue is that they believe they haven't accepted full responsibility. Why not just put them out there so they can hear it from them and eliminate that roadblock?
Again, that would be a question for their legal team.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, good.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was the press conference.
Is Mark still here?
He's back there.
Yeah, can we get Mark back up real quick?
That's that's a question for Mark. Another question.
All right, you've been listening to a live press conference. That is a family member, Anna Maria Baralt. She is.
Yeah, let's mute that, but keep it up, Space Coast, please. Hello, everybody. So the headline here, of course, is a judge ruled against the new Los Angeles District Attorney, Nathan Hochman. He was trying to basically have a previous motion that was filed thrown out, asking for a resentencing of the Menendez brothers, Lyle and Erik, who've been behind bars, as you heard, for 35 years. Right now, they're in prison in San Diego. They appeared today via Zoom from that prison. But now this judge has ruled that the brothers will get their resentencing hearing. Let's bring this up. This is Josh Ritter.
Nothing remains in front of the court for him to decide. But now he's saying, no, we're going to go ahead and have this hearing. They're going to come back next week on Thursday, and they're going to argue now the merits of whether or not they should actually be resentenced. So you can understand why there's smiles on their faces leaving court today.
Yeah, it's not over with, not yet. Correct. At least. So Erik and Lyle Menendez, it was a good question that we heard there is, will they and should they testify in that hearing next week? What would you do?
I imagine they won't. You would think that if there was a reason for it, it would have happened before now, but who knows? I mean, these sentencing hearings are not like a trial. The judge can take evidence, and if they feel that they want to be heard by the judge and they're willing to waive Fifth Amendment issues and go ahead and give testimony to explain, I imagine they would want to keep it to their conducts for the last 30 years that they've been in prison and concentrate on that and explain their why they feel that they should receive this incredible benefit, then perhaps we will be. I mean, this is, again, one of those cases where it seems like everything we don't expect is happening.
Right. It seems like the cousin would like them to have a chance to testify or to speak out because the DA would like them to accept responsibility. So maybe that would be the case that they would do that for, I don't know.
He's certainly given them that challenge. If they want to take this opportunity to go ahead and say that they've lied about, I think he enumerated 12 different things or something where he feels that they've been untruthful. If they want to take that opportunity, then they could, accept that challenge that was laid out for them by Hochman.
Yeah, it sounds like he's very prepared for that. He's already done multiple presentations with multiple arguments and different states. Sorry, we're getting some information that we might have to switch real quickly. You want to, Nicolette, you want to Okay. Sorry about that. Josh, I'm going to thank you so much for your input.
Thank you so much.
We're going to be talking to you next.
Hey, they've got a car pursuit. They've got a car pursuit in LA.
To Chris Christie and that pursuit, which is.
You can leave the car pursuit up, Spaced, if you want. There you go. As long as it's not a copyright strike for us, Space Coast. But it's a serious day here, and a lot of people are upset about this. This is one of these things that is very divisive. And it's almost like half the chat is upset about this and half the chat is ecstatic. But again, the headline, by the way, Ritter couldn't do my show because he's doing ABC. Little does he know that he did my show anyway. My question for Josh, how often does that guy get a haircut, man? That hair is always perfect. The Menendez brothers, they're going to be in court now next week, Thursday and Friday. We're going to have to figure out how to bring that to you. I believe there will not be cameras. If it was like today, there were no electronics allowed in court. So very likely that it will not be televised, but maybe, I have no idea because of the high profile nature, they will allow the cameras in there to capture what is certainly going to be a historic judicial hearing to see if the brothers can, if they will be resentenced. Now, they would be resentenced, as I understand it. We're working to get you a lawyer on right now. Nima Rahmani, maybe from Los Angeles, and Ildiko Tabori might join, who's a psychologist who knows this case inside out. But long story short, they're going to be in court next week. You heard them during that news conference, and we'll go through it, say that they likely will just come with statements, that they won't provide testimony necessarily. But they, with this resentencing, it's not, as I understand it, like they just walk out of prison. What the judge could do is resentence them to life without, life with parole, as opposed to life without parole. So they could get resentenced to life with parole. And then likely after that, shortly after that, there would be some sort of vacating of the conviction. I don't know the legal terminology, which is why we need Nima on here. But they essentially would be released. There's also another political angle that they could take, which is basically being pardoned by the governor of California, Governor Gavin Newsom. But this has turned into a bit of a you-know-what match, politically speaking. And you heard Mark Garagos talking about it just now. So apparently in court today, and again, no cameras, no electronics whatsoever, but the reporters in court said that Mark Garagos got very animated in there with very heated objections. Nathan Hochman went on way over the 2.5 hour mark that he said it would take him to present as a district attorney. He was in there himself litigating this in front of the judge and Mark Garagos and company as far as the defense goes. But you heard Mark Garagos, who also, has defended high profile clients like Scott Peterson. He came out and he said that justice won over politics. He said it was difficult to sit through it. He had remarkably, I like Mark, but for him, remarkably short comments, preferring to give over the limelight, so to speak, to family members. Dr. Tabori is here. Hey, Dr. Tabori, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. So I'm sure you heard the news that they are now granted this resentencing hearing. The Menendez brothers will now be in a court next Thursday and Friday. For those who do not know, Dr. Ildiko Tabori is a psychologist based out of LA, featured in a Menendez brothers documentary. So first question for you, Dr. Tabori, is the chat is basically split in half here, with half incredibly upset about this news and the other half incredibly happy about this news. Why is it so divisive and polarizing? Are you surprised by this?
No, not at all. I mean, just look at the two DAs in this case. The DA that initiated this, which was the previous one here in Los Angeles, Gascon. and who was voted out back in November, I believe. And he wasn't liked, I believe, even by his own DAs, his deputy DAs, because he was a lot more progressive in terms of prison reform and things like that. This new DA is a lot more hardcore about it. So it's not surprising. This has been a very divisive issue.
Yeah. This comment obviously said with a facetious tinge to it. Are we still setting male survivors of abuse back 30 years over here on STS? I've asked you this question before. And there was a question asked in the press conference. I don't know by whom. If they were black men, would this be happening? But the question I have asked previously is if they were women, would they have gotten out much earlier? What do you think of this in terms of gender and race?
If they were the Menendez sisters, they definitely would not have been incarcerated for this long at all. It would have probably been what it should have been for the Menendez brothers, a voluntary manslaughter charge. If they were black men, they would have gotten the death penalty, unfortunately.
You think so?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, it's our prisons are still much more crowded with people of color, and they are, the harsher sentences go out for people of color, statistically.
Self-awareness here says, and it's another good question, and then I'm going to brief everybody on what just happened. But what about all the other people who committed murder but are not good looking or have had a Netflix doc made about their life, or a series, a docu-series? That's actually a dramatic series. Why do these brothers get preferential treatment? That's a question a lot of people are asking. They come from a lot of money. They have a lot of means still. So I think the extended family is supporting them, and they're well off from what I understand.
Yeah. Look, they are good looking. They were good looking. And it was a murder that happened in Beverly Hills when there are no murders that happen in Beverly Hills. Even today, I mean, you get one or two a year. And I think that's even a lot. So it was a very, very surprising, case to begin with, and it was one of the first ones that did get a lot of publicity. It was airing, at least the first trial. The second trial didn't air, but it got a lot of publicity. This was pre-OJ. This was I think Court TV even. So yeah, I mean this. And what the media was looking at back then in the 1990s is that, again, men can't be sexually abused, and that they were doing it for greed.
Ned Smith says, this is another question for you. You've got to respect the jury's decisions. By the way, I can't do this on a Friday. Bar, if you've gotten political, why is it that every time you say anything, it is just having a conversation about these two guys and asking some perspective on what has been going on for almost 4 full decades. So just relax yourself. As Phil Waters would say, don't get your panties in a wad. Since he's not here today, I will say it instead. Jenny Moody, happy Friday. I forgot what the question was. Now, do you remember, Ildiko?
I don't remember what happened 30 seconds ago.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. So let me just get back to what Mark Garagos just said. Thank you, Jenny Moody. I might be a little moody tonight. I need this week to end. Mondays are tough. Fridays are tough. But we'll all get through it. So Mark Garagos, to that point, he said that justice today won over politics. He said it was tough to sit through there, and his family just waited such a long time for justice. And then he went on to say we saw a lot of performative art. So Nathan Hochman was in there. Listen, he made a case. I'm going to go through what he has said, but essentially his sort of tagline for all this is that the brothers have never showed, any remorse and have never taken responsibility. Now, the family member, Anna Maria Baralt, who is niece of Jose and Kitty, and I'll get to that too in a moment, she said that is patently false. That was the quote. It was, she said, where is my quote? That is patently false. They've repeatedly taken responsibility. I guess, with emotions aside and politics aside, what is your understanding? Have the brothers publicly come out and said, we did the wrong thing. We take responsibility. We should not have done it this way, but we were essayed, and this is how things ended up.
100%. I have no idea where Hochman was getting that kind of stuff. And, I've already said on this podcast, and I'm not a huge fan of Hochman. But they can't, if you look back on the videos from the first trial back in, I believe it was 1993, sorry. Or 94, I don't remember, 93 or 94, where they were saying, yes, we did this. Yes, we are sorry. Yes, I want to take it back. And they have consistently said these things. They have taken responsibility for it over and over and over again for 35 years. They've taken responsibility for it. So I have no idea where Hochman gets that.
Yeah, and he's been saying it over and over. I'll be honest, I have mixed emotions about this one, I think, and I, indirectly, I knew of them because I played tennis. So there's an actual sort of quasi connection here. They committed a horrific crime. My tendency is to believe the essay. And since that is true, I believe, I have no idea how I would react to that. I don't know that anybody, but they reacted in the way that they did. It's never okay to murder, I don't think. But, prison is supposed to rehabilitate. So the question then is, have they served enough time? And again, this is not a get out of prison free card. This just means, Buckwidor says, I have a bias towards victims getting justice, even street justice. I can't help it, but I'm aware of it. There you go. This is very interesting. I didn't know this, but all female members of the original jury said not guilty. And in that first trial, they were allowed, correct, Dr. Tabori, to bring in some of the essay. It was very limited in the second trial, I believe.
Yes, that is correct. And Trekking 360 is definitely is correct on that, and that's why they got hung juries, both. And there were two separate juries for each brother. Erik had one jury, Lyle had another jury, and they both juries came back at different times with that same thinking, where the men wanted guilty and the women did not, and so it was a hung jury on both ends. The second trial, they were not allowed to bring in the sexual abuse as a defense. So a lot of the people who had testified in the first trial were not allowed to testify on the second trial, and actually Lyle didn't testify on the second trial, so it was all up to Erik. So yeah, it was the same judge, and I just don't know. I mean, he reversed his own decisions. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what the legal standing of that was. But yeah, it was really, it just was such a bizarre case. But if you think about it, put it into context. So the first trial happens, it comes back hung jury, both juries, and then OJ happens.
Yeah.
And then we all know what happened in OJ. And for anybody who was living in LA at the time, like me, I mean, that was a big mess. And then it goes right into the second jury or the second trial. And then and they couldn't really do anything on that case. So it was really a messy thing to do.
Wow. We've got a big guest coming on this. I would say he knows more than anyone about this case. I see him in the background. He, as soon as he's set up with his shot, but Robert Rand, he has covered this case from the day it happened. I think the day after the shootings. He was a Miami Herald reporter, and they sent him out. I'm just seeing the top of his forehead right now, which is why I'm not putting him on screen yet, but we'll get him situated with a COE. T. Cancella says, I played high school tennis, speaking of tennis, with Menendez brothers. And in tennis, there's first singles, second singles, third singles, and two doubles teams. And I played first doubles with Bill Bloom. But our number one player, who was probably one of the best players I've ever seen, Charlie Cancilla. So every time I see T. Cancella, I think of Charlie Cancilla. So you just threw me off, but it's weird because it brings me right back to the Menendez brothers in a weird way. So
I want to interject here. I have a little bit of a connection to the Menendez brothers. Eric and I are around the same age, and I knew, and I use that in quotes, Eric Menendez in high school. He went to a neighboring school of mine, and I had friends who went to school with him the senior year, and I had seen him at parties. I didn't know his name. I didn't know. I just had seen him a couple of times, and I'm like, oh, he's cute. And then when the whole thing came up, I'm like, that's his name.
Yeah. But T. Cancella with a question. Ann Burgess does support their release. She is the living legend, Dr. Ann Burgess, who's basically started the field of criminal profiling, and she worked, I guess, with Eric, interviewed him, and then testified. Robert Rand, thank you. Oh, he just literally, I was just going to ask, and he just disappeared on me. Look at that. So I'm gonna go over. We'll try to get him back in here. But again, Robert Rand, he just made a documentary. Menendez and Menudo, Boys Betrayed. I believe he has a book about this. Yeah. So let's see if I can get him here. That's weird. Hang on one second. I don't know why I'm not seeing him. COE, I'm going to need your help to get Robert on here, I think. But yeah, it's weird. It's not putting him in. Anna Maria Baralt, she is the niece of Jose and Kitty Menendez. And she spoke also right after this ruling by the judge. By the way, the ruling, I think, came very quickly because I was I was monitoring this, and apparently DA Nathan Hochman's presentation went on for hours and hours, and then Garagos got up, said, I guess, whatever he had to say, and then the judge ruled, and it happened very quickly. But Anna Maria Baralt, she is the niece of Jose and Kitty Menendez, and she came out and said that facts, fairness, and law still matter. You need to show people who they are now, implying not from 35 years ago. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Good afternoon from Los Angeles.
Good afternoon. For you, a person who's been following this since the day after the crimes were committed, what's it like for you? This has to be surreal.
Well, this was not the day that I expected. I thought I would be home by noon. And we really had a street fight going on in court between the deputy DAs and Mark Garagos, who were really slugging it out. The deputy DAs took over 3 hours for their presentation in support of their motion to withdraw the resentencing motion. And Mark Garagos stood up for an hour and just got to the point, which was the deputy DAs were trying to relitigate the case once again. And the resentencing only deals with Erik and Lyle Menendez's record in prison and whether or not they have been rehabilitated. So it didn't really make sense to me why they were spending so much time talking about, the crime and the original trials.
Yeah. So Robert, I want to get to you about what it was like in court, but just let everyone know. So the resentencing hearing now is scheduled for, I believe, next Thursday and Friday. And from what I understand, the Menendez brothers will be inside the courtroom. This is not a get out of prison free card. This is the potential, I think, to get life with parole. And then what would happen after that point if that is what the judge resentences to?
Well, we're not sure. We know that Governor Gavin Newsom has ordered the parole board to do a risk assessment to determine if Erik and Lyle Menendez are a risk to the public in California if they are released. And also, Governor Newsom has announced that Erik and Lyle Menendez will testify on June 13th in front of the parole board. So these are normally steps that are not taken until much further down the road. And so I think it's a very encouraging sign that Governor Newsom has stepped in and clearly is not satisfied or happy with the way Nathan Hochman has handled this case.
Yeah, Robert, obviously I want to pick your brain, but I know you're probably holding that phone, so you're in a car, so if you have to run, you just let us know. And by the way, we do have the best guests in all of true crime because we got basically the OG reporter here, Robert Rand. Why the affiliates in LA are not, or the O&Os, I should say, are not interviewing him, I have no idea, but I won't make any
Well, I
jabs.
just did a bunch of TV interviews.
Okay, good. I feel better knowing that now. So Robert, apparently from reports, Garagos was fired up in there. What happened? What was like the tenor of the courtroom today?
I had never seen Mark Garagos in court in person. I'd seen him on TV at various trials. However, he was on fire this afternoon. Within an hour, he just blew away the DA's office presentation, and he really focused everything back on the resentencing. And Judge Michael Jessic apparently agrees with him, and he wants to let the defense have an opportunity to present a number of live witnesses, including a half dozen staff members and guards from R.J. Donovan Prison, where the brothers are housed. And so those hearings, as you just said, will take place next Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, Dr. Tabori, weigh in on that. So they're going to bring in, I guess you just heard, prison guards. What do you think of that? Apparently, they've got a very good reputation behind bars. They've initiated initiatives, and they're apparently, by all accounts, doing quite well. What do you think about the fact that they're going to bring in these prison guards? Oh, lost your audio. Are you muted? I don't know why I'm not hearing you. That's weird. COE, do we know why that's Robert, you hearing me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you, and I can answer that question.
Yeah, please do. And Dr. DeBoer, you might want to bounce out and bounce back in because it might be a glitch, Dr. DeBoer.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I got you.
Okay.
But Robert, you jump in. Go ahead, Robert.
So the reason that the defense wants to put on staff members and guards from Donovan Prison is people that have a very positive opinion about Erik and Lyle Menendez. One of the guards actually wrote a letter and said that he would be totally comfortable with having Lyle Menendez become his neighbor after he's released from prison. So the fact that these guards, who have seen all kinds of humanity come through a state prison in California, that they support Erik and Lyle, I think that's very significant.
Robert, I'm going to mute you. You don't have to do anything, just in between questions. But Dr. Tabori, what about this notion of rehabilitation? Prison is supposed to rehabilitate. They've been in there 35 years. Again, by all accounts, they are model prisoners. How do you know if someone is rehabilitated? Like if they did move in next door to me, of course, I would say hello, say, hey, do you remember me from the East Brunswick Racket Club? That'd be the first question. And then, but, maybe at night I would say to myself, these guys were capable of murdering two people. So they've done something kind of crazy in the past. How do you know if someone is okay to be in society?
Look, I mean, and having worked in the jail and prison systems here in LA for many years ago, I don't know any prison guard who would testify on the behalf of any inmate. So the fact that there are guards who are willing to do it, and I believe it's my understanding that there are supervisors who are willing to support the Menendez brothers, that says something. But what we know about prison, it's not about, I mean, they want to say it's rehabilitation, but it's not. And so it's really what you make of it and how you live your life in that circumstance. And if you look at what the Menendez brothers have done, I mean, they've done the Greenpeace stuff for their trying to build, a community.
in prison. They've done, I believe, hospice work and other things, and they really support the other inmates. So I don't, if that's not rehabilitation, then I have no clue what that is.
Yeah. Robert, I'm going to unmute you here right after I ask the question. Life is all smoke and mirrors. Before they killed their parents, they lived a life of luxury and all seemed well. How do we know they are mentally stable now? Just because their family says so. Followed right here by this comment. They murdered their parents when they could have escaped the alleged abuse by moving out and getting jobs. Your response?
You certainly can't get around the elephant in the room. Erik and Lyle Menendez committed a horrible, brutal crime. They were 18 and 21 when I met them 2 months after the killings and 5 months before they were arrested. Now they are 54 and 57. I still go visit them in state prison near San Diego, and they are very different people than the young college guys I met back in October of 1989. And I believe that they have repeatedly expressed their remorse, which the prosecution denied and kept emphasizing that they were liars in their presentation today. And I think that the fact that the most interesting thing that former DA George Gascon said in his news conference announcing the resentencing initiative in October was Erik and Lyle Menendez thought they were in for life without parole. They never thought they were going to get out of prison. And yet they chose a path of redemption. They chose to be of service to other inmates in their prison community. And so I think that says a lot of who they are today. And they are very different men than the college age guys I met in 1989.
Yeah. Are I mean, I know you're in touch with them very frequently. Do you have plans to talk to them prior to this hearing next week?
I will probably talk to them on the phone.
Yeah. How does that? I'm just curious. How does that work? They call you, you call them. How does that work?
Generally, they call me. I have a way to get messages to them. Actually, the prison has a system where you can message inmates. They actually have tablets down in the prison, and they're rolling that out to other prisons in California. And yeah, I have a way to get in touch with them, and we generally talk every couple weeks.
And do you think they know this news already? It just happened a short time ago, and news travels fast.
They were there live at
Zoom. All right, I forgot about that.
They appeared by WebEx electronically from RJ Donovan prison, but they could see and hear everything that was going on in the courtroom and with the judge. And we were able to see them as one of 3 screens that we had in the overflow courtroom, at the hearing.
Yeah, tell us a little more about that. So what did they, how did they appear? I assume they're obviously in prison jumpsuits. Did you see their reaction when the judge finally ruled on this?
Unfortunately, the feed from the prison stopped just after the judge ruled, so we did not get to see their reaction. But throughout the day, they were very focused on everything that was going on. They were listening intently. They were both highly intelligent guys. They were certainly aware of everything that was happening. And as I said, the DA's presentation, which went on for over 3 hours, really was focused on the crime. And the resentencing motion is not focused on the crime. It deals with their record since they entered the state prison system and answers the question whether or not they are rehabilitated. And so I think Mark Garagos did a fantastic job of bringing, the focus of the hearing back to the resentencing. And he made an argument succinctly in an hour. And Judge Michael Jessic agreed with Garagos and ruled in favor of denying the motion.
Yeah. Amanda here with a super chat. Ms. Burgess, that's Dr. Burgess to me, said they should be punished, but the threat is not there, meaning their parents. It makes sense to me, and I would be okay with them living next door to me. Peace, she says. So Robert makes a really interesting distinction, very important too. Dr. DeBoer, to you, that the resentencing, which we're going to have next week, literally just deals with their time in prison over the last 35 years, not the crimes that were committed. So again, that's why these prison guards are coming in. I guess the question is there's a lot of people who are reformed and a lot of people who are not. So I'm just going to sort of go back to what I was asking before. What sorts of things, and I presume the judge will ask this, what sorts of things do you think the judge might ask of the Menendez brothers to gauge their rehabilitation? And by the way, they are very, very smart guys. I mean, one went to Princeton, but go ahead, Dr. DeBoer.
So, I mean, that's an interesting question. I don't know exactly what a judge would ask, but if I were the judge, I'd be asking things like, okay, what things have you done to make your community a better community? And they have a long list of things that they can address. I would also ask what type of mental health treatment they had been receiving. I mean, you can't go through what they had gone through for years and years and years of abuse and not come out with PTSD. And so, you know, and I'm sure that they have gotten treatment in the system. And I would want to know, I want to hear about the things that they've learned about themselves and the tools that they have brought into their daily life to manage their stressors.
Yeah. This is an interesting comment right here. Just if you want to comment on this, Dr. DeBoer, and I'll get back to Robert. Erik and Lyle have never lived a life without punishment because the implication is that they were being essentially punished by the parents before. Do you agree with that?
100,000%. Absolutely. I mean, like their lives is so horrifying. And yeah, absolutely. They've just been punished every which way they turn.
Yeah. Robert, so just take us back into the courtroom. Was it packed? And also, I'm just a little more curious to hear more about the brothers themselves while DA Hochman was presenting his case there. Again, very smart guys. Were they showing sort of facial reactions, anything to get any tells from them that they were disappointed or annoyed by DA Nathan Hochman, and also just the kind of the tenor of the courtroom?
So the courtroom was packed, and there was an overflow room where I was, which had screens on showing the brothers at Downman Prison, the courtroom gallery, and then the judge. And Erik and Lyle Menendez were really leaning forward, listening very carefully to everything that was being said in the hearing. And they were really paying attention and really focused on what was being said. And as I said, the presentation by the deputy DAs went on for over 3 hours, and it really made no sense to me. They kept talking about lies, lies, and lies that Erik and Lyle Menendez told, and that's nothing new. When Nathan Hochman had his most recent news conference, March 10th, he said, I might be willing to reconsider the resentencing motion if Erik and Lyle Menendez come clean and admit that they completely fabricated their defense. And so that's like an outrageous conspiracy theory that makes no sense. And it would have had to have started with the lawyers who are very high profile people of integrity, Leslie Abramson and Jill Lansing. And then there would have had to have been an agreement by dozens of teachers, coaches, family, friends, relatives, and also some of the most notable therapy experts like Dr. Ann Burgess, who you mentioned, that they had all joined in this giant conspiracy to fabricate a defense. And I don't believe that's true. I covered both trials. I began working on this case 35 and a half years ago, the day after the killing of Jose and Kitty Menendez in August 1989. And, I've gotten to know the family, I've gotten to know the lawyers over the years, and I've gotten to know Erik and Lyle Menendez. And it just is nonsensical to me that the DA's office under Nathan Hochman keeps saying they need to admit they fabricated their defense. It's simply not true.
Dr. Tabori just reminded me of a comment that Anna Maria Baralt made in the press conference afterward, and she pointed her finger at DA Nathan Hochman and said he's now re-traumatized us for the third time by showing all these pictures in court. I guess what it is his job, to litigate in these sorts of to stand up for the government in these cases. So I'm just curious what you think of all of that.
Well, I certainly respect the DA's office professionally. And yes, it's their job to present, their side of a case. But I don't think it was necessary to put up crime scene photos with no warning to the family members who are also the victims in this case. And that's what Mark Garagos really strongly objected to. And he said the family members should have been warned. They could have left the courtroom. And instead, these pictures popped up by surprise.
Yeah,
And
that sounds really irresponsible to me from DA Hochman there to not at least give them a warning. Robert, I got to ask you, and I'm going to ask Dr. Tabori about this, but when those photos came up, I assume Lyle and Erik could see them, maybe not. I don't know. Did they have a reaction?
I don't believe they could actually see the photos themselves. But the family members in the courtroom, which probably was about 24 people, they all saw the pictures were blown up on a giant screen.
Yeah. Dr. Tabori, what about that statement from the family, though, that the DA now has re-traumatized them for the third time in a bunch of months here? How triggering is it for the family members to see these pictures of their loved ones, although they are sticking up for Lyle and Erik?
I mean, how difficult is it to see any death scene photos? I mean, it was absolutely irresponsible of them, of him, to do that. And look, I get that they are doing their job as the district attorney, as the deputy DAs, but this case was 35 years ago. They've been incarcerated for 35 years. I mean, I understand why he's doing this. I don't understand why he needed to put crime scene photos up. I don't understand why he didn't give heads up to anybody in the courtroom to say, hey, this is what we're doing now. You can leave, look away, whatever. I mean, it's done for a dramatic effect. It's done for shock value. And there's absolutely no benefit. And it's way more detrimental than helpful. And it kind of shows the type of person that's doing this. It just wasn't okay.
Yeah, Deanna here obviously has a very good grasp, I think, on the case. Robert, one of the first people that Mark Garagos mentioned, and I don't know this person, so is Brock something or other. Who is this Brock person? What's the connection to the Menendez case?
Brock Lunsford was one of the deputy DAs who wrote the original resentencing motion, the initiative that was started by former DA George Gascon in late October of 2024. And after Nathan Hochman was elected DA in December, he demoted Brock Lunsford and a woman deputy DA who also worked on that motion. And they've filed a lawsuit against Nathan Hochman and the DA's office, saying that they were unfairly demoted. So, there are just so many things that are swirling around the case that it's hard to keep up on everything. But, there was no jury in the courtroom. There was no reason that they had to show those crime scene photos today. I mean, certainly the judge has seen them before.
Yeah, it almost seems spiteful. Deanna Gordonier, to you, Robert, again, and then go back to Dr. Tabori. Eric's physician's notes when he was 7 document bruising to his throat. Now doctors, dentists are trained to look for that type of injury. There are a lot of people saying, well, how do we know they were abused? There's no evidence of it. What evidence? You don't have to go through a Nathan Hochman long answer here, but is there evidence of the abuse that is been readily available or for professionals, jurors, everyone else to see? I know in the second trial there was an issue with that, but the bottom line question is there evidence of the abuse?
The short answer is yes. The long answer would be go and watch the Court TV video stream, which is also this first trial is on YouTube, and you will see witnesses such as the brother's cousin, Diane Vandermolen, the daughter of their of Kitty's sister, Joan Vandermolen. And when Diane Vandermolen was a teenager, she spent a couple summers with the Menendez family. And one night she testified in the first trial that Lyle Menendez came down to a room in the basement and said that he wanted to sleep in the room with her. And when she asked why, he said that his father had been touching him down there. And so Diane was 16, 17 years old. She immediately went and talked to Kitty, and Kitty said, "Oh, don't pay any attention to what Lyle's saying. Lyle just makes things up." There was another cousin, Andy Cano, the son of Jose's Menendez's sister, March Cano. And Andy Cano testified in the first trial, which you can see online, that when he was 10 and Eric was 12, that Eric asked him if his father ever massaged his genitals. And, Andy was kind of shocked. He didn't know what to do. And he said he wanted to go and talk to his mother immediately. And Eric made him swear on a pinky promise that he would never tell anybody what he had just said, because Eric said that Jose Menendez, his father, had threatened to kill him if he told anybody about the abuse.
Yeah. Hey, Robert, there's this comment. They claimed from Roxanne A. Kitty was sexually abusing too. I believe maybe Eric there. What is there any evidence of that? And is that the person that she was allegedly targeting if she was allegedly doing this?
So I learned from March Cano, Jose's sister, that Jose was abused, sexually molested by his mother, Maria, between the ages of 3 and 7. And I've learned through other sources that Kitty Menendez was sexually molested by an older relative when she was about 9 or 10 years old. And I've been told by one of the defense therapy experts that about a third of molestation victims grow up to abuse themselves. And so there is abuse background in the Menendez family. And the mother of Jose Menendez, who I was told, molested Jose, she grew up in a house in a small town in Cuba with 5 uncles, and she was allegedly molested when she was growing up, when she was a small child.
Yeah, that's fascinating and depressing at the same time. Back to T. Cancella here for Dr. Tabori, and I promise just a few more minutes. I can't keep the guests late. It's late on the East Coast and getting late on the West Coast. Kitty did nothing. When your own mother, Dr. Tabori, won't protect you, you assume the entire world would never protect you or believe about your violent father. What do you make of this comment? Is there truth based in there that if your mother is not supporting you and turning a blind eye, then essentially you have no protector?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, who can you trust if you can't trust the person that is your earliest relationship? You know, and it is really interesting, you know, whenever I've treated people who've been sexually abused by a parent, like by a father, the anger goes out equally, if not more so, toward the parent who wasn't protecting them from the other parent. So yeah, it is really sad with the trauma that occurs in that they can't trust anybody. You know, everybody has failed them. And, you know, and it was brought to their attention multiple times, brought to her attention multiple times, and it's, you know, ignored.
Yeah. Katarina here saying Lyle said Kitty abused him when he was very young. I don't know what this is yet. I'm reading it out loud. I was part of California ministry in Pelican Bay, as well as others with my husband, who was himself released from a serious 3-strike sentence as a survivor of childhood SADV. Even as an adult, our mother knew. So there you go. I mean, sorry to hear that, bubbly one, but glad things worked out, and I appreciate the super sticker very much, and I'm hoping your life is gotten much better since that point. But that just goes to show, you know, this is a real live person here in the chat saying that there was a ripple effect. Dr. Tabori, there was a really interesting comment earlier, and then I'm just going to kind of wrap up with details and a couple more questions. But someone said, how come there's not the same sentence for murder in this country? It's interesting. Like, it's true. I know you're not a legal scholar, but would it make sense maybe to have a universal penalty in America? You take a life, or is the justice system built purposely this way to be able to weigh different sorts of crimes, I guess?
Yeah, I think that speaks to motivation and intent. You know, you know, each crime is individual, and you have to look at, you know, why a crime was committed, and you can't compare it to another one. And, you know, this is not, like, you can't compare the motivation behind the Menendez brothers crime to, you know, somebody who just walks up and, you know, shoots somebody in the head. I mean, this is not, there's so much behind it. But I mean, I get what they're saying. I think we need to relook at sentencing laws. Absolutely. Because people are being over sentenced, and some people are being under sentenced. But yeah, I don't think you can have one universal sentence for certain crimes. And it doesn't act as it's not going to make the crimes not happen.
Yeah. Ned Smith, the last person I'll ever get into a brawl with is Ned Smith. If true, the parents were awful, horrible, cruel, does that justify their brutal killing? That is a yes or no question. I don't know that there's a simple yes or no question. Dr. Tabori, is there a simple yes or no question to a very complicated relationship?
Well, I mean, does it justify brutal killing? No, it doesn't justify it. It makes it understandable, but it wasn't okay. I mean, that should never have happened. And there did deserve to be a punishment for it. Not this one, in my opinion, but yeah, there did deserve to be a punishment for it.
So just wrapping this up, again, Anna Maria Baralt and Mark Garagos, the defense attorney, spoke. Anna Maria Baralt is the niece of Jose and Kitty. Some of the other things she mentioned in the press conference is that Erik and Lyle have taken full responsibility for what they did, and that they have lived with accountability. She kind of took a little bit of a pot shot at Nathan Hochman with this comment, because Mark Garagos called it performative, and then she said the boys, their work isn't performative. She said that she has not spoken to the brothers yet, that they were re-traumatized, as we talked about. She said it was nice to see the judge rule fairly and thoughtfully. She said the only lie told today was Nathan Hochman's presentation would be 2.5 hours long. Of course, she said that in jest, kind of lightly. And she said at the hearing, we get to talk about who they are, their remorse, and their rehabilitation. And again, when asked how come they have not taken responsibility, which is what DA Nathan Hochman says, she answered by saying it is patently false, absolutely patently false. One other thing that's sort of interesting to me is that for the first time, I believe, Terry Parole sat down with ABC News. She's the only surviving sister of Jose Menendez. And she said, and I quote here, 35 years is a long time. It's a whole branch of my family erased. The ones that are gone and the ones that are still paying for it, which were kids. And then went on to say, for everybody, this is a story. For me, it's very personal. Those kids, they're like the boys that I did not have. Robert, to you, do you know Terry? Again, the only surviving sister of Jose. Your thoughts about her finally coming out publicly, speaking for the first time?
I do know Terry Parole. We've been speaking for 35 years. And by the way, Jose Menendez has another sister who's alive, March Cano. And March Cano was a very powerful advocate for Erik and Lyle, going back to from the time they were arrested. And she was a key defense witness at the first trial. And March Cano is unfortunately in memory care, and so she is not part of all the family members that are coming out for the different news conferences and court hearings. But I know that she has a long history of being an advocate for the brothers, and the fact that Terry Parole is 85 years old now. She's recovering from cancer. I spoke to her briefly after the hearing today, and she told me that she was so happy that the resentencing motion withdrawal was denied, and that there will be another day in court for Erik and Lyle Menendez.
Yeah, I want to introduce. I was not expecting this, and actually, for full disclosure, I'm not familiar with Allison Treisel, I believe. I'm probably butchering your last name, but Allison, you're muted. Can you hear us? COE's telling me that she knew the brothers. Do you know? Are you? Hey, Allison. Allison. I'm going to bounce her out. COE's, just see if you can fix that. Robert, are you familiar with Allison? Because she says she knows.
No, I'm not.
No,
but
okay.
I have interviewed somewhere between 800 and 900 people since I began reporting on this story.
Well, we're going to get back to that. So just to sort of round things out and see if we can get Allison in here for a moment. DA Nathan Hochman, his response was 85 pages long. He said that essentially the brothers have never fully admitted their crimes, which the family again says false. They've clung to lies about self-defense, which the family says is false. They tried to suborn perjury, falsely claiming their father essayed Lyle's girlfriend and their mother poisoned them. Family says no. Hochman argues the brothers show a lack of acceptance of responsibility. Again, family says no way. Defense claims they should have been convicted of manslaughter, not murder, and should already be free. Hey, Allison, can you hear us?
I can. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you for joining, and I apologize
My
for
pleasure.
my ignorance, but I hear you're an attorney and you know the brothers?
Right. So I'll give you my background. I'm a criminal defense attorney here in Los Angeles. I appear in front of this judge with on a weekly basis, and I went to high school with Erik.
Here in Los Angeles. I'm in Miami.
Yes, I went to Calabasas High School with Erik Menendez.
Wow. Great to have you on Surviving the Survivor. I'd love to see you, but no camera, which is great because this is also audio. You're actually on right now with Dr. Ildiko Tabori, who's an LA-based psychologist who has been in a Menendez brothers documentary, and Robert Rand, who knows more about this case than anyone, including probably the family. He was just saying he's interviewed about 900 people. He's covered this case since the day after the murders. But so if you
I
have any
am
questions
very
for
familiar with Mr. Rand. Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Great to meet you. I know who you are.
Yes, good to see you.
Yeah. So, Allison, what's your reaction to today's development? Of course, the judge ruling that there will be a resentencing hearing.
I think that this is a very thoughtful judge. I think that I'm happy to see that it is an independent judiciary. Do I think that ultimately he will rule in the Menendez brothers' favors? Maybe not. But I do think that he wanted a full evidentiary hearing. He wanted to hear from both sides. And I think that what he was promised was a much shorter hearing than the DA gave him. And he wants to have them both sides fully litigated. Ultimately, will he release the Menendez brothers? In my mind, it's doubtful.
Really, that's interesting. I want to circle back on that for sure. But first, let me ask you. I mean, when you say you went to high school, did you know
I knew him
Eric?
very well. I graduated with, well, we were in the same class. He actually moved to Beverly before he graduated. But I lived in the same community as John List. I was very close to to Craig Signorelli. I studied with Eric. So yes, I knew him very, very well. And an interesting story is that my father, who was a Los Angeles-based psychiatrist, came home one night and Eric and I had been studying in a study group, and my mother had made my dad dinner and it was being kept warm in one of those microwave plastic covers. And Eric went into the kitchen and ate my dad's dinner, removed the cover. And my dad, who's a psychiatrist, called him a sociopath. And that was before the murders. He said,
Oh,
"What kind of sociopath comes in and eats somebody else's dinner?" Does that surprise you, Mr. Rand?
I would say a hungry sociopath.
Dr. Tabori, you're the psychologist. What about that? She has no idea. Allison, let me ask you, Allison, did you say John List, like the family
Yes.
in the guy who killed his family in Jersey?
No, no, no. One of the friends of theirs,
Oh,
who I believe, and Mr.
okay.
Rand can
Okay.
clarify, because it's been 30 years, but I believe that Eric and Lyle burglarized John List's house.
Oh, I was just asking because
Correct.
I'm from New Jersey, which is where John List is from. My dad was a psychiatrist. Your father's a psychiatrist, and I used to play tennis with Erik and Lyle at the East Brunswick Racquet Club. And then you come on and you went to high school with them. Your dad's a psychiatrist. Then you mentioned John List, and I'm like, this is getting crazy. But I'm glad it's a different John List and not.
I think it's because this one grew up in the Los Angeles area.
No, yeah. John List is actually much older and probably a whole lot creepier than the John List you know. Let me circle back, Allison. Why are you saying that you don't think he's going to rule in favor? Of so he he's going to have the hearing, but he might not rule
Right.
life without parole. Why?
Right. I mean, these are Hail Mary passes in many ways. You're asking a judge to undo a conviction by a jury. After this case has been, there's been 5 appellate courts, I believe, that have ruled against the Menendez brothers. So there's got to be something truly extraordinary that's going on for a judge to resentence them, and essentially by doing so, he's releasing 2 convicted murderers. I'm not opining on whether I think that's right or wrong, but as somebody that has worked in the criminal justice system for many years, you're asking a judge to make a very, very difficult ruling. And one of the things that he didn't want to do, and I have so much respect for this judge, is he didn't want this to be political. He felt that you shouldn't change district attorneys, and there was essentially an offer made by the prior district attorney that they were going to support a resentencing, and this judge found that he wasn't going to withdraw motion, and he said, "Look, your office put this in motion." So I do think he made the right ruling in allowing the full resentencing hearing to proceed. But it's a lot bigger leap to believe that he's going to grant their motion and ultimately release them. I'm not saying that he won't, but it's a big ask.
And that's a very big distinction. Again, Mima Chan, thank you for that super chat. I appreciate it. Allison, you're here for the very end of the show, so I want to get into your expertise here. So just tell us, and then we'll start to wrap up. I promise. But tell us. So I assume it's the same judge. I don't know the judge's name, so you can let us know who he is or she, and also what happens next week. What does the judge have to? What is the judge's responsibility? The judge is going to hear testimony, a lot of character witness, testimony. And then how does he weigh that in order to decide whether or not to resentence them?
So his name is Michael Jessic. He's a former district attorney. He's been on the bench for at least a decade, known to be very fair, very thorough, very bright. He um, was very well liked in the district attorney's office by both fellow district attorneys and defense attorneys. Um, both sides of the bench like to appear in front of him. He will give both sides plenty of opportunity to be heard. And that may include hearing from Erik and Lyle directly. And I believe that he will take his time to issue a ruling on whether he believes that in the interest of justice, these two should be resentenced.
And when you say take his time, is that 7 minutes, 7 days, 7 months? How long does this take?
He could take the matter on under submission and set a new date or issue a written ruling. The cases that I've appeared in front of him, he has ruled immediately. But this is a high profile case where there will be a lot of testimony that will have come in. So I'm not sure his ruling will be immediate, but I can assure you that it will be something that is very well thought out. He is a man who is quite thorough, and I was not surprised at all that he wanted to hear. He wanted to hear from both sides. He gave them a lot of time today, and he's going to give them as much time as they need next week.
That's actually very reassuring to hear. I got caught off guard a little because there's a comment here from Dina Gordonier. Many letters, mine included, have gone to Judge Jessic. Allison, does he read all of these letters? I've no, I knew someone that was very obsessed with this case, and this was like early 90s. There's got to be a lot of people out there who have been following this for the 3+4 decades, 35 years. Will the judge read these letters from the public?
I do not, but no, I do not believe that unless it is submitted as an exhibit as part of the prosecution or the defense's case, the judge will not read letters from the public. He will not, unless it's part of their included as an exhibit in one of their cases. Because
I didn't mean in court. I just meant, will he personally read them just to get a sense of the public opinion out there?
No, he will not.
Okay. And how do I pronounce your last name without butchering it? Treasel?
Thank you. Yeah, that was terrific. Yes, it used to be Allison Bloom years and years ago, but it is Allison Treasel. So
this is getting weirder and weirder. My doubles partner on the court that I played next door to Erik and Lyle on the court adjacent, Billy Bloom. Did you just say your last name was Bloom?
Yes.
This is getting weird now. All right. So huge thanks to Dr. Ildiko Tabori. She is a Los Angeles-based psychologist. The ruling today by the judge, Dr. Tabori, there will be a resentencing hearing. You heard from Allison Treasel, who knew Erik and is a criminal defense attorney in her own right, and sounds like she knows exactly what she's talking. Shout out to Steve Cohen, by the way, because this came out of left field, but that is what Steve Cohen's like the Rain Man of booking, man. All of a sudden, just brings you a guest out of left field, and that guest is great. So shout out to Steve Cohen, shout out to Space Ghost, shout out to the COE, shout out to the mods. So the family's going to endure another 2 days of this. And you heard Allison say there's a decent chance that the judge is not going to resentence them. That seems like it would be such a devastating blow. How does a family recover from something like that?
I mean, they've been doing this for 35 years. So, I mean, yeah, I just move on with life, but it's not going to be a good thing. I think there are two other options, and, somebody can address this better than I can. You're dealing with possible clemency through Governor Newsom. And then I don't know if this is the case or that's falling under the youthful offender law here in California. Which basically says that. Yeah.
If I could step in, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
So they were under
Okay.
26 at the time. So,
Yeah.
so yes, it would.
Okay, so that's what I was curious about. There's also one other case that is going on, but I could be wrong. I thought there were three.
They have three avenues here. One is the resentencing, the other is the habeas petition, and the last is the governor's clemency.
Great. Okay.
Yes. Allison, I'm going to leave the last word for Robert Rand. So, Counselor Treasel, your final thoughts. Thank you so much for hopping on with us here. And again, she knows Erik from high school. She's a criminal defense attorney. Do you plan to be at those hearings next week to witness this first?
I actually have my own murder case next week in San Diego. So I will, I'm the legal expert for KTLA, so I will stay connected, but I will not physically be present.
I am friends with Casey Montoya and a bunch of other people. I used to work
He's
in
wonderful.
broadcasting.
I love
Yeah.
Casey.
Yeah, I know Casey well. How come Steve hasn't booked you yet? Will you come back on our show to discuss other criminal? And by the way, is your case in San Diego, is this like a high profile case that we're missing?
No comment.
No. Will you come back for another case? We talked about the trend.
I would love to. But
Allison,
I never talk about my own. But yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and KTLA, it's a fun channel out there. Last but certainly not least, a good channel, but also they have a lot of fun at KTLA. Robert Rand is again the GOAT, the greatest of all time when it comes to the Menendez brothers reporting. He is the Muhammad Ali of the Menendez brothers reporting. He has the documentary Menendez, Menudo, Boys Betrayed. Robert, what is the official title of your book? And your final thoughts? This is a monumental day for someone that's been covering this case as long as you have.
So the title of my book is The Menendez Murders, and it is the definitive book on the case. And it was originally released in September 2018. It was re-released with a new section last fall. And, even though I've become an advocate in recent years for the brothers, my book about the case is journalism. It's equally fair to both sides of the case. And so, also I have a website, RenendezMurders.com, which has some information you can check out. But thank you for having me on. I will be at the hearings next Thursday and Friday, and happy to come on again.
I'm going to take you up on that. I was just going to say, Robert is not only a serious and a good journalist, but he is a mensch, good man, and I appreciate him being here. That's a Miami word and a New York word right there. So Robert, I really appreciate it, and I'm still going to take you up and harass you a little to get Lyle and Erik on this podcast if they get out.
Okay.
Even if they don't get out, it'd be good to reunite. So go out there and get the Menendez Murders, the book, because as you heard, it's the definitive book. And next week, we're back on Lori Vallow Daybell. We're streaming that trial Monday to Thursday. While she's in court, we'll have a whole new set of shows at night. Everybody have a great weekend. Happy Easter. Happy Passover. Love Los Angeles, love Miami, which is where Robert started his reporting. And whichever way you think on this, I guess, is which way you're going to think. So I don't know. The Menendez brothers will either be freed or they won't. We will soon know. Thank you to everybody. If the guests can stick around for 1 second, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.